into your rubric and I look and make sure that you have everything that's in here and make sure you're uploading everything. So value scale, using all the pencil weights, and your animation should use all the pencil weights, and you should show one definite light source. If you have all that and you uploaded it correctly, you should be getting 100. So just make sure that you're hitting everything on the rubric. And I'm giving, I believe, more than enough time because this animation took me about, I guess, what is it now? 6:52, like half an hour to animate it, about maybe 2 hours at the most to draw. I think, yeah, probably a little less than that. So it shouldn't take you much time at all. If you want to be creative and create something different than a bouncing ball, let me know beforehand because I would like for it to be showing the value scale and have a light source. So whatever you're doing has to have both of those because it is in the rubric and I need to be able to grade it off of the rubric. So just let me know before you go ahead and do your own animation other than the bouncing ball. Okay, so I scanned my sketch in and I have my assignment sheet open. I'm going down to where I have to do the part where the bouncing ball is going to be animated down towards the bottom of the assignment. You're going to be using Photoshop for this, and we need to create a document that's 400 by 400 pixels. The first thing I want to do is try to clean the sketch up a little bit. It's kind of smudgy and the scale is down, so I added a hue layer. Let me get rid of it real quick. You can see that there is a little color in here, so I want to take that color away. So I'm going to go down to the color adjustment down at my layers panel. I'm going to click on the adjustment and go up to hue and saturation. I want to take the saturation of that color down to -100 so that I'm taking all the color away. So you can see it's just black and white value scale here. And what I want to do now is try to take away the value that's in the background, but I don't want to take it away to the point where I'm not going to see some of the detail. So I'm going to add another color adjustment layer and go to curves and maybe use the hand here. I would use the picker if I go to the white picker and I click on the background and it makes it white like this. Sometimes it'll kind of blow everything out, so everything's kind of white in those areas. I still want to get somewhat of the details. I kind of did this sketch a little quickly so you could see the stray marks, but I kind of like flowing stray mark look to it. It probably give it a little bit more movement when you're animating it. So what I want to do now is still want to kind of mess with it just a little bit here. So I'm going to select these and bring them into my Photoshop document that I'm going to create. That's back here. Our required size is going to be 400 by 400. So let's go to File, New, and create a, let's see what this is supposed to be named. I think that we do have to name it a certain way. So let's just go 400 by 400. And this right now, I'm just going to put, it's important that you guys go in here and make sure before you turn it in that you check the rubric. If it does not say that it needs a certain name, then I would name it what you like, but if it does need a certain name, which you can see right here, I would name it this here. So that is what I would name, and this first name, last name is your first name and last name, so make sure it's not just first name, last name. I know that, well, I haven't had anyone this year do it, but I know in the past someone did that before. Okay, so now that I do have my new document here, I want to start copying my layers and pasting it into my new document. So I'm going to go in, make a selection by just using my rectangle marquee and go over top of one of the layers here. So we need to merge these down. And to merge all of this together, you would have to select all of these frames. So you can click on the first one, go down to the last one, hold shift and click on the last one, and it should select them. So you could do it from bottom to top or top to bottom. So just click on the top one and then shift, hold it down, click on the bottom one. And then once you do that, you could go over to this little hamburger looking thing and click on that. And you have an option to merge layers, or you can merge visible. So merge layers. And now when you copy this and you bring it over to your new document, you can paste it and you can see that it's a lot larger than our page size here. So we're going to have to adjust the size of this. So since we're on this layer here, first thing I want to do is right click on the right side to make this a smart object, because the reason for making this a smart object is when you scale down, you lose some pixels. So if you ever wanted to scale back up after you scale down, you do not lose those pixels. You'll still have those in your smart object. So like, if you double click on it, it always keeps, it makes your file size larger, but it always keeps the original size there. So if I scale this down, let me go back just to make sure that you guys know. You're going to have to click on the move tool, and then you'll have this top menu bar that changes. Just make sure your workspace is set to essentials, like I said in the beginning of the year. So if you do not get the top bar, you should go to essentials and then reset so that everything's in the generic starting format. So then make sure you click on the move tool, and then you could go to show transform controls, or you could just hit Command T. All right, so then here you can see that I'm skewing my image. I'm not holding down shift. So I have to hold down shift. If your preferences are set to the option where you do not have to hold down shift, when you do hold down shift, it's gonna skew things. So it's either one way or the other. I do have to hold down shift. All right, so this is going to be my top graphic for my animation. And I guess I'm going to keep it about this size here. Seems like it's pretty good. And I do want to name this as top, because later on you're going to see that it may get a little confusing. So I'll label that one as top. Let's get rid of the show transform so that we could see. We look in here and we see a lot of background that does not look good. Like maybe around here it looks a little, we could always use a layer mask. Take our brush, bring the brush size down. You can do it by right clicking, what I just did, or you can bring up your your palette to your top palette here, so you could bring your brush size down a little bit here, and then we could just brush away some of this stuff that we have from when we copied it over. You can do it like this, and let's go move on to the second frame of our animation, or one of the other frames. All right, so let's take this one. Let's copy, Command C, or you could go up to Edit and copy. Then you could paste. All right, Smart Object again. Right-clicking on the right side. Okay, show transform controls. Remember, go to the Move tool, show transform controls. I could transform it by the middle. I do have to hold Shift down on mine, so I'm going to hold Shift, and you can see it's skewing it again. So transforming in the middle is not working for me. So I'm going to have to go out to the corner, hold Shift, and bring it down so that it looks similar to what we need here. Okay. So this looks good. If you want to put a little opacity to see what the one below looks like, so that you could either match the size or just to kind of get an idea of where you want to place it. So I want to probably make it just a little tiny bit smaller here. All right. So we have two in here, and let's just go through. This one could be the top one, or maybe I'll just leave this as the closest to the top. So maybe this will be one from the top, just for me to remember. Go to my marquee tool, and let's grab this one here, copy, paste, turn it into a smart object, and then Move tool, show transform, and I'm holding down Shift so that you can keep it proportionate. All right, maybe this is a little bit too small. All right, there we go. So then this one could be my middle, I guess. I'll call this middle. All right. Okay, so then let's bring in the bottom one. This might be a little dark in the background, so we might have to fix this one up. I want to crop it close. So copy, paste. We call this bottom, and make it a smart object. And then we can go to the Move tool and transform this one down. And we're going to add a layer mask. Go to our brush. You can do B, or you can find your brush over here. Just click on it. Like we did to the other one, we have to brush away our middle. And so I want to make my brush size just a little bit bigger here. You could do it this way, or you can make your selection so quickly. I want to try to get this move in here because I have to be in class, and I'm gonna try to hurry here. This is in the morning. You can see it's 6:40, so I'm trying to get this done before I go in. So now we need, I want to bring a shadow in here, but I also would like to see if this could be a little bit better. I'd like to get the rest of these shapes in here so that I can show you how to animate it very quickly. Okay, so let me go in and make a selection this way using our lasso tool. You know, the difference is this is very organic, so I don't want to use the pen tool to try to select. But what I can do is after I make my selection, I can use a feather. So if I go to modify and feather, and maybe 2 is fine, and then I could copy that, bring it over here, and you could see it just feathers it out just a little bit. And let's make it, convert it to a smart object. Show transform controls, and I'm going to use shift to transform it down. Okay. So this, I think the animation is just a little bit too big for this little square. So I might end up grabbing or selecting all the layers and resizing them all. So once I put this last one in here, maybe I'll just do that. So let's do the same thing with this one. Okay, copy this one and paste it. Okay, so now I'm gonna right click, convert to smart object. Let's name this ground 1, and then this could be called ground, just for my, you can name it whatever you want, but so that I know. Holding down shift, resizing it. Okay, so that should be good here. I'm going to grab, now let's move this top one over here a little bit. So now we're going to grab all of these layers. And remember, click the top one, hold shift, then click the bottom one. Now I'm going to resize these. So I'm going to hold down shift and resize here. Okay, now let's set this one right about there. And you start off with the top one, bring it all the way up here. And when you see a ball bounce, usually at the very bottom, when it bounces, it's faster. So what I want to do is add more frames to the top, so it looks like it's slower up top. It's like, you know, when it's going to the top, it kind of slows up, and then it drops down quicker. So here in the middle, I'll just keep it still up to the top, and then the bottom, I'm going to keep it up to the top. And this kind of looks like it's shooting up, and this is the reason why I made it in a kind of oval shape here. So the bottom here seems good to me, because it's just going to hit and then splat, and then it's going to jump back up again. So I'm going to loop it back and forth. All right, so now I'm going to go over to window. I'm going to bring up my timeline. So you need the timeline set. We are not creating a video. We are creating a frame animation. So you're going to have to first go to the drop down, go to frame animation, and you're going to click on that. So now that's our first frame. You see there's everything there. So I do not want everything showing right now. I want to have the ball start from the top. So I'm going to take away all the frames except for the top frame. Now my animation's gonna be, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames here. I did want to bring in my shadow. So shadow, maybe I'll use this one, but for right now, I'll put it in afterwards so that you could get an idea of what I was trying to do, or what I want to do. All right, so now let's try to get this moving here. So the seconds down here kind of gives it a little bit of extra time between each frame. For this one, let's just keep it at 0, so we have a consistent like movement here. So let's add a frame down at the bottom here next to your play, and this is your your skinning, onion skin. So we could kind of show you what that does. Okay, so now we want to go from that to one top. So we want to make sure that our opacity in our frames are at 100%. We brought it down so we could see what's underneath. So then you got your first frame, dropping down to the second frame, add a frame. Now we have our middle frame, add another frame. And you see I'm clicking off of the one frame and I'm adding the next frame, and you can see it's there now. You can see it moving. I'm going to add another frame, and we have our ground 1 and another frame, and set the ground 2. All right, so now since we have these frames here, now we want to make it jump back up. So we're going to go to 5, add another frame, and just move it. So 4, add another frame and move it to the end. 3, another frame, move the copy all the way to the end. And then we have 2. Then we're going to move that to the end. And you see how we only have 1, 1 because it's just going to loop. So 10 loops back to 1. And then we have 1, 6 because that's in the middle. We don't want to have 2 here unless we wanted to pause for a second. And we could pause it just by adding a delay of 1 or whatever we want here. So since we have this set here, you could see this is your loop. So you could make it go once, 3 times, or forever, or however you want if you select the other. So let's try to test this out. Let's hit play. You can see it's kind of bouncing here. And I could have did more with it. You know, you could do more with it, but you can see that it works. But let me resize it to make it smaller so that everybody could see it a little bit better, and then let's get it off of that transform so you could see the way it looks. All right, so now if we go from 1, let's try from 7 to 8. So we're going to 7 and we're pressing down shift and we're clicking on 8, and we're going to use this onion skin. We're just going to click on it. We're going to add, let's add 2 frames. So it's going to change the position, opacity, and if we had effects, but we don't. So let's take that off. So it's going to tween the selection we have here, and it's just going to add frames in between here. So let's hit OK, and you could see that it added opacity, and let's see what it looks like. You can see that it kind of hits between those, but the opacity looks kind of weird. I think I liked it before, but you guys could fool around with that. So now what you want to do to save it is you want to export it, and you want to save it for web, you want to change your setting to GIF. All right, so once you change it to GIF, I would try to take a look at the preview of it. It's going to open it up into a web browser so you can see what it looks like. And then if it works there, you could go back over to Photoshop and you click on Save. You make sure that it's named correctly. So here, you see how it automatically put GIF because I didn't have that there before. So I want to select my name, make sure that it's exactly the way that that it should be on the rubric. I think it was this, and you just hit save. Now, once you save it, you can check it again, but if you checked it in your preview, it should be fine. I'd go back into your rubric and I'd look and make sure that you have everything that's in here and make sure you're uploading everything. So value scale, using all the pencil weights, and your animation should use all the pencil weights, and you should show one definite light source. If you have all that and you uploaded it correctly, you should be getting 100. So just make sure that you're hitting everything on the rubric. And I'm giving, I believe, more than enough time because this animation took me about, I guess, what is it now? 6:52, like half an hour to animate it, about maybe 2 hours at the most to draw. I think, yeah, probably a little less than that. So it shouldn't take you much time at all. If you want to be creative and create something different than a bouncing ball, let me know beforehand because I would like for it to be showing the value scale and have a light source. So whatever you're doing has to have both of those because it is in the rubric and I need to be able to grade it off of the rubric. So just let me know before you go ahead and do your own animation other than the bouncing ball.